The Lost Caverns of Ixalan pre-release is about to be here, so let me fill you in on what to expect and the archetypes you should keep an eye on to play. Good morning, Magic. I'm Gavin Verhey from Wizards of the Coast, and the pre-release for Lost Caverns of Ixalan kicks off this weekend, starting on November 10th. You will have the first time to try out the set at game stores around the world. I love pre-releases. They're just full of energy and excitement as everybody cracks open the packs and shares strategy. Here's how one works. In each pre-release event, you'll get handed one of these, a Lost Caverns of Ixalan pre-release pack. Among other things, inside you'll find a spin down D20, a special stamped pre-release card, yes, you can play in your deck, and of course, the heart and soul of your experience, those booster packs. You'll be cracking all of those open and using them to build your deck. You'll be building a 40 card deck and picking out about 23 creatures and spells to play. You can add as many basic lands as you want, and the store will have them on hand. Usually you want about 17 total lands in your deck. To help narrow it down, you're probably going to want to pick 2 colors. Some kinds of cards you really want in limited are evasion, so mechanics like flying, removal to kill off your opponent's creatures, and of course, just generally strong cards and bomb rares. You can sometimes splash a 3rd color, but really you should stay focused on 2. One other thing you really want to build with in mind is what's called a mana curve. The idea here is that you'll have strong cards to play at all points of the game. If everything is cheap to cast, you'll run out of gas in the long game. But if everything costs 5 and 6 or even 7, you'll be too far behind by the time you get to the long game. So what you want to do is create a curve of 2 through 6 drops. A well-built limited deck usually has a solid distribution of at least 4 2-mana creatures, 4 3-mana creatures, 3 4-mana creatures, and at least 2 creatures at 5 or more mana. You can, of course, go higher on each of those as long as you aren't dropping lower anywhere else. Additionally, with land cycling in the set, you can play a couple cards that are higher on the curve, knowing that you can land cycle them if you need to. Now, here's something I see people get wrong all the time. The mana curve of your non-creatures is good to keep in mind, but can be a bit more varied than your creatures because you usually play them on a turn other than their mana cost. For example, my preview card, Compass Gnome, is a card you will play on turn 2, but Song of Stupefaction probably isn't. So you shouldn't put the Song in the stack with your 2-drop creatures because that's going to mislead you. In general, when deck building, I make a curve of cards I'm going to play on that turn on top, and then below it, the curve of my spells that I won't necessarily play that turn. Give it a try. Okay, so you know what you're building for, but how do you pick the cards? Well, one other way to get pulled into a color pair is with multicolored cards and color pairings. Every 2-color combination in Lost Caverns of Ixalan has its own theme. Knowing the themes can help you build the best deck possible, and keep your eyes out for signposts on the way there. You don't have to play these strategies if you're in those colors, but they're often what a lot of cards will point you toward. Let me run you through the 10 archetypes. We'll kick things off with blue-white artifact control. You'll use your normal suite of removal spells and blockers, sure, but you'll get mileage out of cards like Oltec Archaeologist to bring back something like a Razka Puzzle Door for a bit of extra value. The signpost card to keep an eye out for here is Master's Guide Mural, which can keep pumping out 4/4s each turn once it's crafted, provided you have enough artifacts to keep turning it on, of course. Blue-black is Descend Control. Descend wants you to have permanent cards in your graveyard, and everything from a bit of self-mill on cards like Waterlogged Hulk to just solid removal spells like Dead Weight can help get you there. There are plenty of big Descend creatures that will turn on as you descend too, and the signpost uncommon Ukbenbach, the Great Mistake, helps give you a creature that can come back for a second round. You've heard about control, but now it's time to go to Descending Aggro with black-red. This deck wants to turn on Descending by making sure a permanent has hit your graveyard each turn. Cards like Deep Goblin Skulltaker can really get out of hand if you constantly descend, so look for ways to toss those permanent cards away. And remember, it doesn't necessarily have to be from the battlefield. The multicolored payoff here at Uncommon is Zoioa Lava Tongue, who can come down on turn 2 and continually put your opponents into a spot of tough decisions. Do you like dinosaurs? Of course you do. So that's why red-green is dinosaurs. Ramp, play dinos, smash. There are also some non-dino support cards like Burning Sun Cavalry, but dinos. And if you want to take down your opponent's creatures with your dinos, its Quinth helps make sure you can do just that. I think you probably get the dino picture here. Green-white is an aggressive deck with a focus on going wide and combat tricks. Play creatures to the board, build up forces, and attack. And if your opponent has blockers, strong tricks like staggering size or ones that go wide like family reunion can make your opponent wish they never blocked. Kutsil, Malamut Exemplar not only helps you draw cards off your bigger creatures, but also make sure that your opponent can't muck with your creatures during combat. The Black-White Dusk Legion is here to sacrifice for its advantage. You'll want to look for both sacrifice outlets, like Vito's Inquisitor, and things that you are happy tossing away, like Mephetic Drought and Market Gnome. Descending cards can also be good here, since often you're sacrificing permanents. Bartolome is just the signpost uncommon you want, letting you sacrifice anything with no cost and growing in the process. We saw artifact control before, but blue-red is artifact aggro. Mini pirates care about artifacts, they do love their treasures, after all. Cards like Shipwreck Sentry turn on easily with maps and treasure running around. And if you see Captain Storm Cosmium Raider in your pack, that's a real sailor's delight. You can quickly beat your opponent down with it growing after you cast it on turn 2. Black-green loves to descend too, in an archetype that could be described as grindy descend. This one wants to gunk up the board, doing a bit of self-mill and occasionally trading off permanents until it hits its descend numbers. Akawali is just the card for the strategy, turning into a huge threat once it's at descend 8. Red-white attacks and also taps in this red-white tapping deck. A more unusual archetype, this deck plays creatures, generates tokens, and uses them to power up cards like Adaptive Gem Guard and Sunshot Militia. Kaparakti Sunborn turns your extra creatures lying around into a bit of discovery too. Of course, you can also just attack in a pinch. Okay, and the big question for blue-green, is it just ramp? Actually, no, it's a favorite. Explore midrange. Use creatures that explore alongside some cards that care about exploration, like Twists and Turns. The signpost, Nikanzil, gets you a lot of value out of your explored cards. And yes, okay, with all those extra lands, you can ramp into a big dino or something if you need to. Alright, so there you have it, the 10 archetypes of Lost Caverns of Ixalan. Which are you most excited to play? Let me know in the comments down below. I'll talk with you again soon. And until then, have fun at your pre-release this weekend. You got this. But it's just a light and flavorful little touch in the set. As you draft, there's a good chance you'll end up with some caves and maybe even a couple Caves Matter cards. And if you want to build a constructed deck with caves, there's a card or two that might show up, though I wouldn't exactly expect a deck full of Cave Matters cards to take over standard or anything. It really adds some texture. Several